never been one to. Jimmy grew up just down the street, raised on corn and amphetamines, and he had dreams. Big old American. Daddy said if he worked real hard, he'd get paid and he'd go real far, and that's a dream. Big old American. Ozark boy on a cliff edge, 30-year war and a mortgage, paying taxes, can't afford it, can't afford shit. He can't somehow dream, some wake up, some breathe gasoline, doors all shut, said it hurts too much to feel it, so now Jimmy's gone. Numb, some got good, some got none, some are born the wrong, someone's son said it hurts too much to feel it, so now Jimmy's gone. Numb. Jimmy's grown and his mama's sick. He got no idea how to pay for it. Ain't cheap. Big old American. Uncle Sam and his daddy alive, so he stumbles home and he gets real high. He had dreams. Big old American dream. Ozark boy on the cliff edge, it's a free fall monster. Pockets just like those promises, they're broke. Some have dreams, some wake up, some breathe gasoline, doors all shut, said it hurts too much to feel it, so now Jimmy's gone. No, some got good luck, some got none, some are born the wrong, someone's son said it hurts too much to feel it, so now Jimmy's gone. No. I hear that train a-comin', and it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rolling on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. but I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. Well, I bet there's rich folks eating in their fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and they're smoking big cigars. Well, I knew I had it coming. I knew I can't be free. But those people keep on moving, and that's what tortures me.
Listening to 102.3 FM, where we playeth nothing but chance, and more chance. This are not thine elder matriarch station.
Hello everybody. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're doing well. Welcome on in. Thanks for hanging out so far. We're going to be starting work on a new project. I just punched my microphone there. Sorry about that. We can get this thing focused a little bit better. Here we go. We're going to be working on this brute from 1490 Doom, which is a small scale, dark and dirty medieval game that I'm still learning about. The maps are really interesting because it's almost like King of the Hill. It's all about getting higher up on the stack of terrain, and the higher up you go, the safer you are, but also the more you're going to be thrown into encounters with the other players. So I think it's an interesting idea. The world, I still need to look a lot more into it. I just really like the models. The models are really, really cool. Yeah, the vertical is really interesting. And it is in contrast to Cosmica, and I believe there may be some other games out there playing with the vertical idea but going down. Cosmica from Blackside Studios is about going down deeper into a spaceborne wreck for salvage and loot. Whereas 1490 Doom is about climbing the towers, climbing to get out of the down below. It's really interesting. Be interested in seeing a lot more terrain setups and things like that for games of that type. Definitely seems like they'd be a lot harder to set up, or certainly require a completely different set of terrain, which I'm curious about how much that might affect. My face cam's not on. I'm wondering how much that might affect people's willingness and interest in playing a game when it requires such a different terrain setup, because it is something that you could use a lot of your existing terrain with, but you might not be able to use all of it, or sometimes it could be that your existing terrain just isn't suitable at all. So I wonder how that affects people's willingness to try out a game. So if I have to build a whole new table just to try out a game to see if I like it, I know that might throw a damper on how excited I am to try out a game. So we're just starting out with some mahogany here as the undercoat for the skin. I do this fairly often when I want to make sure that the skin looks alive. This acts as the layer of blood and muscle tissues underneath the skin. And so when we start painting over this with various mixes of skin tones, we'll still have this red showing through in underneath and possibly in some of the deeper shadows. This will be mostly covered, and then we'll just allow it to inform and tint the layers of paint above it, because all acrylic paints are translucent. They are not super opaque, so this color will show through by informing the colors, slightly altering the colors above. So we're just getting some base coats down here. We trench in. Waz, this could absolutely be used in Trench Crusade, 100%, but this is actually a miniature from the people over at 1490 Doom. I do have some Prussian Trench Crusade stuff that I do want to start working on fairly soon. So I've got my Prussians here and got them all primed and ready to go. So that'll be a project soon. I also got the Sniper Priests, the plastic Sniper Priest kits. This one's set up with a grenade launcher. This one's got the actual the sniper rifle. There's one with I believe it's a Lewis gun, and then another one with a Tommy gun. Those are all the options that come in the plastic kit. Figure if I ever played, I had a big electrical spool and the smaller round items I could stack for the various levels, at least as a test. That's a great idea, Cook Crafter. Yeah, that could absolutely do. Hey, Island Hobbyist, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. We're just starting out here, getting some basic starting stuff down. We got a dark coat down for the skin. Now I'm going to go in where this plate armor would be, and we're going to hit that with my dark gray blue for the steel. This is not going to be a very shiny steel. Okay, so we're not going to do it super shiny. This is going to be super scratchy, and we're going to try and make it pretty dull looking. But we're still going to use many of the same colors here. And then we might decide to alter that, because it could just be could be that this doesn't work out and we need to do something different. That's fine. But 1490 Doom is grim and gritty. I don't know if you could actually call it full-on grimdark. So I'm not sure it's quite that, but I also don't really know what really defines grimdark versus non-grimdark. So we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate y'all dropping by. Hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday. And Cooked, yeah, I actually need to start looking over the rules for 1490 Doom. I don't have a copy of the rule book, so I need to find out if it's a free online one. I think it is, but I could be wrong. And if it is, I need to start reading. If it's not, I need to secure a copy of the rule book just so that I can start reading it over, because I like collecting rules, the rules for small indie war games like 1490 and Cyber Savage and Cosmica and Lictor and Demon Ship and all these different games, because they're so interesting in how they construct their rule sets, of how they structure the game and what impact that has on the game. I enjoy that. So we're just getting base coats down right now. Welcome on in, everyone. There's going to be quite a big advance here. There's quite a difference here. We're very early in what is usually called the ugly phase of miniature painting. So this is where everything's early. Nothing really looks good. And then give me a second, I'll show you one that we just finished so you can kind of see where those ugly phases kind of end up eventually. Oh, this is the miniature we just finished painting on Friday. And we started a very similar process, just base coating and then sitting down and refining, adding shadows, adding highlights, cutting in all these details. And so this is a War Augur from Warcrow by Corvus Belli, same company that does Infinity. If any of you are familiar with Infinity, Warcrow is their fantasy their fantasy game. So this is what we just finished painting. Before that, we finished painting Jim Raynor from the StarCraft miniatures game that is just recently come out. So we always start kind of in an ugly base coats, just solid colors phase, and then we work into more and more refinement, better and better colors, more and more interesting that way. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the skin, and I want his skin to ultimately end up fairly pale, but we do need to start working up all the shadows and the like from this mahogany and work that up. Now this would be a great place to start, like if I was going to do a really dark skinned, we could definitely start at mahogany the same way, the same type of underpainting. Then we just wouldn't bring the highlights up as high, right? We would do a more gradual shift from dark skin into lighter and lighter skin. But this particular guy, I imagine him as being like very stuck indoors or stuck at the top of a tower or something similar, and not really being out and about much. So he's going to be fairly pale. Well, almost kind of want to make him sickly pale, but we don't want him to be albino. If I was going to do albino, we would have started at a very different spot. But we're just going to start him out here and then just work this up more and more into brighter and brighter tones. And it's what in miniature painting is a lot is working up layer by layer. Working the color up layer by layer, slowly, deliberately, and it's a lot of fun. You know, you kind of, it's almost paint by numbers, but not quite. You still have a huge amount of control over what colors go where and why. But we do want lots of contrast. So we want deeper shadows, but also nice colored mid-tones. We want the muscles to read, because we're going to be seeing this guy from, you know, a few feet away on the table, right? We're not going to be up close and personal on him when he's playing the game or when he's being used in the game. So we want him to be readable and visible. Sick colors, thanks. Thanks, Waz. Appreciate that. Attempted to FDM print a manor house for my Sunday D&D game. That sounds like a great idea. I don't need to, and I just drew the map of the grounds as square inches, 20 feet. Ooh. That's a big manor. Isn't in most D&D games and the like aren't isn't each square 5 feet? But I suppose if you're not using minis, or if you're just, you know, doing something bigger, maybe you're not using a tactical in the same way. then it doesn't matter as much. But my understanding is the scale on most maps is 1 square equals 5 feet to a side. But you can do whatever you want, obviously. When I drew my D&D maps on like graph paper and the like, you know, I used all kinds of different scales. One square was 5 feet, 1 square was 1 yard, 3 feet, or 10 feet. It kind of depends on how much graph paper I had and what I wanted to communicate. So I suppose it matters what you're trying to do. I miss doing that. I used to do a lot of D&D maps just for fun. I should get back into that. Just doodles. Any brush recommendations? I'm using crappy $5 ones and they're falling apart. Yeah, so if you're going to use inexpensive brushes, which I encourage people to use inexpensive brushes as long as they need to, as long as they feel like they need to, that's fine. I use inexpensive brushes for most of my painting, except for this. I'm testing these brushes specifically. But if you're going to be using synthetic brushes, then I'm going to recommend that you watch out, that you look for brushes that have a bristle type called Golden Taklon. That's the material that the bristles are made of. Those tend to have a good point. They have good snap, so they'll snap back into a point very easily and very quickly, so you can maintain your tips better. And you don't have to like constantly have to try and paint with a fuzzy tip of the brush. So Golden Taklon, that's the bristle type, and most brushes that I've used that have Golden Taklon, it doesn't matter the brand. The brushes themselves are really solid. If we're gonna go with branded brushes, then if I'm going to give you branded brushes, it's going to be like more expensive Kolinsky Sable brushes, because they're the only ones that I really bother with brands. And those, like a newer painter, probably won't benefit much from a really nice brush, because it's very easy to damage a really nice brush, and it'd be very easy to do that, and I don't want you to waste $30 on a brush that isn't going to last you very long. So I would say Kolinsky, I'd say Golden Taklon as the bristle type for your synthetics. Get used to that. Practice your taking care of brushes. Practice your brush strokes, and then when you're ready to upgrade, then I can heartily recommend both Pro Acryl and Game Envy's Kolinsky brushes. Those are both gaming companies, and they don't have much of a gamer tax on them. The problem with art brushes is there's the artist tax. Okay, so a lot of the fun little hobby tools that we find have like a hobby tax on them, where, hey, this was designed for artists, or it was designed for something completely different, but hobbyists can use it. So hobby companies, rebrand it, and then they put a hobby tax on it, so they charge more than what the original purpose would have charged for that piece, or that tool. That doesn't happen with brushes as much, because artists are already getting an artist tax. So if you go to like Raphael or Da Vinci or Rosemary Co., or a lot of these companies that have higher end brushes, you're already paying quite a bit of money for that. Now the hobby brushes are going to be about as expensive or even less expensive than a lot of those for comparable brushes. So that's why I can, heartily recommend things like Monument and Game Envy for their Kolinsky Sables, because they're not going to be that much more expensive, or they're going to be less expensive. What I've got right now is a Golden Maple brush. This is a round size 2. from Golden Maple. I'm sure if you've been on TikTok and been in the miniature painting area, you've probably seen advertisements for them. This is not, I'm not being, sponsored by them or anything like that. They did offer. They did ask if I wanted to try them out, but I didn't like the TikTok's terms for getting free samples is that you have to make a video within 14 days after receiving them, and I didn't feel like that was going to be enough time for me to really evaluate it, so I just bought some Golden Maple brushes on my own, and I told them, like, hey, I'm gonna check these out, but I want to try them out for a couple of projects and over a few weeks, if not a couple of months. And then, then I'll do an actual review of them. So I'm using these right now. So far, so good. I don't know how they really wear over a long period of time, but so far, so good. Sometimes brushes, they'll do really well for a bit, and then they just start shedding bristles very, very quickly. And that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to recommend some brushes to people because I use them for 14 days and like, yep, these are great. And then people get them, and then 15 days later they start shedding hair. That's the last thing I want. So, does that answer your question, Comet? I know I rambled on there quite a bit, but I hope that answered your question. I got you, Good Crafter. That sounds cool, though. Yep, that helped. Thank you. Good. Excellent. Good. You see here, I'm slowly working up the brightness on what I'm painting here. Each layer that I'm doing is a little bit brighter than the one just before it, because I'm trying to simulate light from above coming down and illuminating the body, right? And sorry if I got a little off screen there. I'll try to keep this on screen a little bit better. This guy's also covered in a bunch of scars, so we're gonna go in and make sure that we detail those scars and we don't ignore them, because those are important storytelling elements for his character. Hope everybody's doing all right. I know we're a little quiet here and there, but sometimes this takes some concentration. So if anybody has any questions, I am glancing up here and there to make sure that I'm hopefully not missing anybody. If anybody just wants to chat or ask questions or talk about something that a project they're working on, whether that's miniatures or something else, please feel free to chime in. I just started in listening to the next book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, book 8. So far, it's okay. It's still early, so things are still just, starting to kind of ramp up. Nothing too crazy yet. No, nothing mind-shatteringly amazing yet, but we'll see. We've still got time. Alright, so now we're going to start working on just making the skin paler and paler. And I want to make this kind of a dead pale. He's not dead. He's not undead or anything like that, but I want the skin to be kind of sickly. So we're adding in some olive white or olive flesh into our pink skin tones here, and we're just going to very lightly start glazing up. Sometimes this is still a little, it might appear to be very opaque, but as it dries it will fade and become more transparent. So that is something that you do get used to when you're painting with certain lines of paints. Pro-Acryl is pretty notorious for fading quite a bit after it's been painted down, after it's been laid down. So then you just kind of wait for it to dry, see what it looks like, and then if you need to continue to intensify it, which we do here, and you just keep on working it, making it, layer it up, make it brighter and brighter. But here I'm trying to keep this this paler skin towards the top of these muscle volumes, these sections of the skin, because they're going to be the most exposed to the light from above. And this type of paint, taking the shape of the muscles into account and kind of where they are in the model and where they are in relation to the light source. This is all called volumetric highlighting. So this is highlighting the piece based on the shape and size of the volume that you're working on. So it's just kind of a fancy term for it. If you hear somebody say volumetric highlighting, they mean that they're highlighting it as if it is actually being lit up by the sun. You're not just putting bright colors at the highest points. You're shaping the highlight correctly. You're focusing on making sure that it reads properly, that you're not putting a round highlight on a cylinder or something like that, which just doesn't, that's not how light would reflect off of a cylinder. So you're trying to get the light to look like it's reflecting off of the body as if it was actually there. So part of realism. Is 8 the one that released recently? Yes, 8 is the one that just came out. Yeah, the Parade of Horribles is the name of it. And apparently a Parade of Horribles is the name for, those processions you can see at like Mardi Gras and sometimes Carnival, or some European progressions with like Krampus and things like that. Well, apparently a Parade of Horribles is something very similar to those. It's a parade that's got a bunch of horrifying or horrible characters in it, and they can be used in multiple different reasons. But if you see a parade that's got a bunch of scary characters in it, or things that are supposed to be scary, apparently that is sometimes called a Parade of Horribles. That's like the actual term for it. So I did not know that. And I want to look into it more so I can if I were to ever use that in a description for a D&D game or something, I want to use that correctly. So I'm going to do some more research in it. But today, I learned that when I started Dungeon Crawler Carl. So we'll find out if it's completely made up and it's just Matt Dinniman's just full of it, or if it's a technical term or a slang term for those types of carnivals. But I've always really liked those kind of old world, old school parades showing, you know, different monsters and things like that, and the heroes beating them, or you know, just different cultural celebrations that've got these mythical monsters in them and they tell a story. I think that's really cool. Hey, Adeptus, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. Could be both, honestly. That is true, Cookcrafter. That is very true. So see how we've started with that really dark mahogany tone, and now we've worked the skin up quite a bit. Now we are getting some islanding. Okay, we are getting some areas that are islanding together, and that's looking kind of weird. So one way you can avoid that is to make sure the upper portions of these areas, the portions that are facing more towards the sky, that they have some sections that are connecting each section of skin to the next one, so that these are not just completely surrounded by darkness. They are still, these sections in between the volumes of muscle are still being illuminated properly. So like up here, these should not be as dark. I should really bring this up, because this split right where his spine is, that's going to be more exposed to the sun. So I should fade that, you know, make sure that shadow's not quite as dark as it is right now. And the same thing I can go with, like here, this is going to be facing more the sun, so this would be more illuminated, so there wouldn't be as much of a shadow right there. In between the pecs is fine. I'm just trying to not let the different areas of skin to be too completely detached from one another, because that's what leads to the islanding effect. If a volume of muscle is surrounded, like it is surrounded by other volumes, then there's going to be a little bit of islanding there, and that's fine, but it shouldn't be everywhere, right? If it's everywhere, that just starts feeling weird, and like something, it looks like, because the volumes look right, but hey Lance, how are you? The volumes start to look right, but they just look detached from one another, and that's not what we want. We don't want it to look detached from one another. We want these are all part of the same skin, right? All the same fleshy covering over his muscles and his internal organs. So there needs to be continuity between some of these. Okay. Adeptus Pains, thank you so much for the heart. I appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, so he's got what looks like fur on under part of his like war kilt. He's also got cloth under there. He's got what looks like a Bible or a reliquary of some sort. He's got a pouch. He's got a belt. Okay, so we've got quite a bit that we can do here in terms of base coating. Now, it does have these wrists. I don't know if these are manacles. Yeah, they are manacles because they've got a hinge on them. So these are manacles or wrist cuffs, old wrist cuffs that he's broken out or has been released. So we're gonna base coat them with our steel base coat color, so that we can start working on the non-metallic, the rough non-metallic later. But we'll just start them out with our dark blue black or black blue. Okay, so let's set that here. Got my leather colors here. Colors I'd like to use for leather. Now I need some for clothing. Oh my goodness. Just knocking stuff down all over the place. Ba, 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 ba. I kind of want to do stripes. Some striped clothing. So let's grab some dark blue, some ultramarine, and some faded ultramarine. So we've got colors there. And then we'll also have blue. Not just red. Let's just do red. Oxide. Orange, red, orange. Set those there. Let's set these over here. Let's I'm going to take some dark blue here. We're just going to do dark blue pantalones. Let that dry a bit. I'm going to take some ultramarine, add it in with the dark blue to just get something in between. So if I went straight into ultramarine, I think it would be too big of a jump in between the two, so I want something in between. I want something in the middle there. And here I'm going to take this mix of the ultramarine blue and the dark blue and just go on the top of all of these folds, because this clothing has lots and lots of folds in it, lots of visual texture. So we're going to leave that dark blue down in the shadows for most of this, and then we'll just hit the tops of all of these folds with our mix, and then we'll keep working that up later. Oh, what is this guy? Hey, Borf. This is a brute, I think he's called. A brute from the game 1490 Doom. I picked him up at Adepticon and kind of been going through a lot of the single figure models I've been picked up at Adepticon to just try and get some paint on them, make them look pretty cool, and then move on here. So we just finished one from Warcrow, so now we're working on this guy from 1490 Doom. He's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy. He's got a frog mouth jousting helmet, but it is covered in cloth. The the eye slot where you would normally see out is covered in cloth, and he's got a breathing snorkel back there. So I don't know why he isn't allowed to see out of his helmet, but apparently he's not allowed to see out of his helmet. I don't really know why. The blister did not come with rules, so I'd have to look up the rules, and I don't have the rules for 1490 Doom at the moment. I don't have them to hand available. I do want to start reading the rules just to get a better idea of like the world and the way the game plays. The verticality of the game is apparently a really big deal and pretty interesting. Seeing in combat is overrated, right? I mean, this is absolutely the antithesis, or the absolute example of that. Of that correct assertion that seeing is overrated. We've got other models that seeing is overrated as well because they have faith. So we've got Sniper Priests from Trench Crusade over here as well. Let's see. There's this dude here. He's gouged his eyes out and now acts as a sniper for the Lord, trusting that his bullets will be guided, or his aim will be guided to the true path. So I guess this guy's kind of the same, but maybe he's I don't know who he particularly follows. They're two different worlds. So again, I don't know much about 1490 Doom. It could just be, for all I know, he could be covering that up to make sure that he doesn't get like altitude sickness or something. I don't know. Or maybe he's a coward and he gets vertigo, so he doesn't want to look down. And he'd rather just, go on these giant towers in 1490 Doom and just swing and not have to worry about looking down. Maybe that's why he's covered his eyes. I honestly don't know. But yeah, the whole thing in 1490 Doom is that you are working your way up from the ground higher and higher in each game of 1490 Doom. It's kind of like King of the Hill, I guess. But dark and medieval. You love Trench Crusade? Yeah, Trench Crusade's really cool. I've got all my Prussians over here, so they'll be a project soon. They will be a soon to come project. I'm looking forward to the two-player starter. Why am I using this? I already have an open mahogany. I guess I left all my reds, or my open reds. I guess I left them in my, oh no, here they are. I just didn't have them labeled properly. Okay, so I don't have to open up new ones. What was I saying? I'm looking forward to the two-player starter for Trench Crusade. Looking forward to that. So far, their plastic kits have been amazing. Archon Studios has done a really good job with the plastic kits. Archon Studios also did a really good job with all the StarCraft kits, because they're the ones who made the StarCraft miniatures game, and did all the miniatures for them too. You play New Antioch? Very nice. Did you get yours 3D printed or using the Prussians? When it comes to Trench Crusade, I backed the Kickstarter. I got the Heretic Legions and the Trench Pilgrims. Those were the two factions that I picked up. And then, of course, I've got the Prussians for the plastic kits. So we're going to do some red and blue striped pants. And I'm just doing really short brush strokes here to start out these stripes here. We're using Pro-Acryl Mahogany as the start for these red stripes. I'm trying to follow the same line the leg is following here, as well as the cloth being twisted a little bit. Yeah, I'm sorry. I drew it too close to myself. I'm really bad at that. Hey, Angry Grizzly Mini Painting, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Thanks for popping in. We're working on a miniature for 1490 Doom. This is the beast, or the brute that they had available at Adepticon. So now we're going to go in with a brighter red and just try to hit the areas that aren't in shadow on these lines, because the shadowed areas I want those to be mostly mahogany. And I'll try not to draw this into myself too much. So here I'm skipping areas that are in darker shadow to just hit the ones that are in brighter areas with this brighter red, and then leaving the stripes that are in shadow the straight mahogany color. What's my Necromunda gang? Right now it's Palanite Enforcers. I also have Goliaths. I have Gene Stealers. I have Helot Cultists. I think those are all the ones that I painted up. Now my Palanite Enforcers, I was having some fun with them, and I had them I had a friend 3D print Helldivers heads for them, so I replaced all their heads with like heads from the Helldivers video game, Helldivers 2, and I painted them because they're already black and yellow, right? And I just made sure to paint them up as Helldivers, and so they're my Palanite enforcers called the Fists of Liberty. They are there to enforce, quote-unquote, managed democracy in Necromunda, because Lord Helmwart and the Imperium are the ones who manage the democracy on behalf of the worthy and trusting populace. Hey, Embeddus, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. So let's zoom in here so you can kind of see what we've got going on here. So you see how we've got the blue and then we did the red stripes, and I'm trying to keep the red highlighted in the same way that the blue underneath is, so it looks so it just looks consistent. Just try to make that leg look a little bit more interesting. Do I have pics of the Fists of Liberty? I don't know if I do. I don't think I ever got them to the point where I'd want to take pictures of them. I got them mostly painted. I don't know if I had them based. I should just sit down and take pictures of them. And if you check out my Instagram, they'll be on there in the next couple of days. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'll get pictures of them on there, and then also I'll do a showcase on TikTok. There was a while where I just wasn't taking pictures of a lot of my stuff, especially stuff that I just did for gaming and I wasn't doing for like really, really high-end painting. Just wasn't doing a lot of that. So let's take some faded ultramarine and just hit a couple of these spots. So we bring the brightness of the blue up just a teeny bit to be a little bit more in line with the brightness of the red. There we go. But we're going to do the same thing over here so I don't have to come back in afterwards. Okay, so now let's go back in here. I'm gonna take a break here in about 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes. So we're going to just quickly do a couple of these lines on the pants. go. And TikTok thinks I'm idle. I am not idle. All right, we got about 20 seconds before we need to take a break. So we're gonna leave this here for now, and then we'll add in the rest of the red here when we get back from break. So we're gonna take our break. Make sure to stand up, walk around, get some water, hydrate yourself. That's my plan. Use the little wizard's room. It's right around the corner. There's plenty of room for everybody. Make sure you take some time to do that, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right. We are back. Can you all hear me? Was my microphone doubled there real quick? No? Okay. Okay, so let's start on the red. These. And we're just going to get our brightest red. Make sure that is hitting the red stripes on the pants at the same spot that the brightest blue is, that faded ultramarine, just to make sure that we're kind of emphasizing that yes, this is light that is causing this illumination, not just brightness of pigment in the dyes. If we want something to read as light influencing the colors, then the colors need to all be influenced the same by the light. Not necessarily brought up to the same brightness, because every color is going to have a different amount of value based on the pigments and based on the color. Like blue tends to be lower in value just naturally than yellow. Yellow will always appear to be brighter than blue. Just because of the way the colors are. But we can try to make sure that these stripes are all show that they're being the light's affecting them in similar ways. Go. Okay, so we got that. Got the pants kind of done. Now there's fur around his waist, so I want to take care of some of that before we dive into any of the leathers. What's this last one going to be? Let's do some kind of cooler. Wish I could be this good at painting my Gundam figures. Oh, you can absolutely be this good at painting your Gundam figures. It's practice, and learning. You know, you gotta learn and develop the brush control and everything. So it is absolutely something that can be done. There are tons of Gundam builders who also paint miniatures, and miniature painters who put together Gundam, and a lot of the skills are very transferable. Same thing with scale models. A lot of the skills are very transferable. Now, the vibe of them might be a little bit different, like with fantasy and sci-fi wargaming figures, you know. The vibe is going to be a little different, but you know, it's still putting a paintbrush to a model, so a lot of the skills are going to be transferable. But the biggest things that really help you build up your skill when it comes to painting is literally the practice. It is putting in hours, or over time, putting in hours of practice over time, right? Like, you're building up muscle memory, you're building up muscle control on you know, how to manipulate the paint, how to apply the paint to a miniature in particular ways so that you get particular results. And that's all practice. That's all just lots and lots of repetition. But it's totally doable. Totally doable. There are even there's a small Gunpla card game that comes with some of the 28 mil Gunpla models or Gundam models. I can't remember the name of the game, but there are small scale Gunpla out there that are generally this scale as well. So that might even make it even more applicable or more relatable. But yeah, it's lots of practice. That's the thing that's the thing that sucks. You know, you got to practice, and that's the thing that understandably stops a lot of people, because not everybody has time, right? Not everybody has time to sit down. Okay, I'm going to practice painting for 30 minutes a day. If you can only do 15 minutes, that's fine. Do what you can. And just like in Gunpla, no one's hopefully, just like in Gunpla, no one's going to make fun of you for whatever state your models are in. I'm just happy you're here. Happy you're having a good time. Happy you're putting paint down on cool little figures. Whether they're Gunpla or whether they're sci-fi minis or whether they're historicals, I'm just happy that there are people enjoying the hobby. Because it's a big, wide hobby, right? There's wargaming, there's board game minis, there's tabletop RPG minis, there's Gunpla, there's scale model, there's historical busts and historical wargaming. It's a huge hobby, and we all have a lot of DNA in common. And it just makes me happy to see people having fun with tiny plastic things. Absolutely. Hey, no worries. We're here to vibe, we're here to hang out. Views are nice, but not necessary. I'm more here to answer questions and be encouraging and hope that people will have a good time. That's my main goal here. So I appreciate you dropping by. Appreciate everybody dropping by, even if you're here for just a few seconds. Thanks for dropping in. This seems a lot lighter than the normal base coat I used for leather, but it's the same color, I thought. Did I put down the wrong color? for my base code. Hello, switch screen. Oh, Twitch ad break is still up. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Sorry, MC. I totally forgot to do that. Thank you for calling that out. BF of mine does Warhammer figures, and I know they're so expensive, even though it's small scale. Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. But you know, they're not just there for display. They're there to be played with too. So you get multiple use out of them. But yeah, they are expensive. But there's plenty of other figures out there that aren't anywhere near as expensive, especially with 3D printing. 3D printing makes a lot of miniatures much more approachable in terms of cost, which is nice. Like this little dude, this little man right here, he's 3D printed. The only thing that's not 3D printed on him is his shield. This was a plastic shield from an old GW kit that I slapped on him. But he's 3D printed, and you wouldn't be able to tell it, really. Once paint's on him, you can't really tell. Which is really cool. Okay, so this is... let's see. Like, I just get so much more value for €55 Gunpla than my boyfriend for the same amount. No hate for Warhammer. Yeah. No worries. I totally get that. Yeah, and it is 100%. It is 100% about what gets you the most value. See, a $55 Warhammer model, that might be one or maybe two models depending on the kit. And for a lot of people, you know, they'll paint it for a couple of hours and be done, and then they'll use it in their army, and maybe it'll be worth it, maybe it won't. For me, since I don't play very much, and when I do play, I'm usually not playing Warhammer. I'm usually playing something like a small scale game, like the one this miniature's for, or other games, or if it is Warhammer, it's one of the smaller scale Warhammer games like Necromunda or Mordheim or Warcry. But I'll easily, if I want to really put my time into it and savor it, I'll put 50 hours into a Warhammer model. Super easy. I'll spend 50 hours painting a Warhammer model, because I want to paint it really, really well and really to a really high standard. So for me, that $55 is still a really good value, because I'm getting 50 hours worth of enjoyment out of it, and then I get to play a game with him if I want to, or I can enter a contest or something like that. So everybody's purpose behind why they're getting models is very different. If I enjoyed the assembly process a lot more, maybe I would get, $50 worth of value and enjoyment out of Gunpla. But Gunpla is cool, but I just don't find it as interesting to me. And so, but I totally understand, €55 getting a good Gunpla model for €55, and then spending hours putting it together and making if that gets you all the satisfaction in the world, 100%. Absolutely, that is a better investment of your money. And I'm not one who says, this is objectively better than that, so everybody should be doing Warhammer. By no means. If Gunpla gets you more hobby satisfaction and makes you happier and makes you enjoy your hobby time more than Warhammer does, do what makes you happy. I'm not gonna say one's better than the other. It's 100% dependent on the person. I just don't find assembling all that interesting, and I've never been a big mecha fan. Like mecha animes or really any of those. I've never really found them that interesting for whatever reason. The first anime I ever watched growing up was Robotech and the Macross kind of cycle. And that was cool. But it didn't grab me in the same way that, say, Last Exile did, or some of the other animes that I've seen in my past that have grabbed me a lot more. What sort of paints do you use? I really got to kill the... Oh, very cool, Izzy. That's awesome. The paints I use are Pro Acryl. These are hobby paints that are made by Monument Hobbies. Now, I don't just use Pro Acryl. I also have Vallejo Game Color, which is another set of hobby paints. They're all water-based acrylics. I also have Army Painter War Paints Fanatic paints, and I also have Games Workshop paints, depending on what I want and how I'm using it. So I am not one to say, hey, only do one line of paints. If that's all you have access to and that's what's easiest for you, great, do that line of paints, use that. But I'm not going to tell you that this line is better than all the other lines, because right now, all of the different lines of paints, they've all upped their game. They've all improved their own paints over the last over the last 10 years. They've improved their paints a lot. So they're all really good at this point. So I don't think there's any one bad line of paint anywhere within the hobby, at least with the major lines of paints. If you're going with a really small line of paints or brand new, they may not be as great, or they might be amazing. But they're just not well known, so it's hard for me to say. I mean, overall, the thing that I will spend more time on my model than he will, well, his amount is the same. Yeah, no, I totally understand, Das Vardu. Yes. Where are you from? I'm from Oregon in the United States. Thank you. I haven't painted in a long time for minis. Oh, okay. I got you. Well, welcome back. Which kill team did you get? Yeah, overall, the thing that I spend more time on for the same amount of money. Yeah, and that's because you're getting a lot more enjoyment out of your model for the same amount of money than maybe your BF is. And that's okay. If that makes you happy, then that's good. I got to start with Nurgle, Space Marines, and the Ultramarines. Okay, very cool. The Death Guard models are really, really nice. And obviously the Space Marines look really cool too, but the Death Guard Marines, the Death Guard are really, really cool. See you later. It was a nice stream. I'm going to sleep. Oh yeah. No, go to sleep, Das. Dasvardu, go to sleep. That is very early. Have a wonderful night. Night, Izzy. Okay, so we've got some of the leather base coat down. So let's go up to the next color in the leather. Oh, I need to do the boots still. We'll address the boots here in just a second, but let's get the next lightest color down for the leather. Just get this mostly on the edges and the upward facing sections of the leather, just to make it a little bit brighter. Here, these areas that are a little bit more exposed to the light. This is just going to brighten the leather straps up a little bit before we do any kind of weathering or any further work on them. Hey, Bodacious Pie, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Just some basic... Just getting into the refining stages of a lot of this. Got a lot of base coats down. Not everywhere, not everything all at once just yet, but we've got a lot of base coats down. So now we're gonna keep on working up the highlights and the like. Been doing all right? Good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, let's do the next brightest color for the leather. This is Parasite Brown. This is kind of the first color used to start showing like where weather's really kind of started to wear down. Especially around corners, areas that would rub up against other things and be exposed to the environment a little bit more. They would get a lot more they'd fade a lot faster. It's kind of what we're doing here, showing where the bag or the pouch has started to fade. The dye that's been put into the leather started to fade. It's kind of what we're communicating here. Up here on the shoulders where the armor's kind of rubbed up against the leather a whole bunch. That's going to be faded down a little bit. Pants look fantastic. Thank you. I think I'm very happy with those. Very happy with that. I figured we need some. He's kind of a fancier fellow, a fancier brute. So I'm pretty darn happy with his pants. I feel like I did a good job with those. I appreciate it. Zoom out a little bit so it can make it a little bit easier to keep in frame. I know I'm doing a really bad job of that. It's kind of hard to keep in frame when you're wanting to get in close so you can see a lot better. But that's my fault, not y'all's. And so it's something I should be dealing with and adjusting my position so y'all don't miss out. Any recommendations for lamps? Oh, that's a great question. So there are some hobby-related lamps that are made by hobby companies, and they're good. Game Envy's Lucent is really good. I haven't used it, but Redgrass's hobby lamp is really good. But other than that, what I'm using here are just regular desk lamps. It's the light bulb that you need to be more focused on. So if you're looking for something that you can just put a good light bulb into, then just about any lamp is going to be good. What you want for the light bulb is you want 800 plus lumens, so you want it to be bright because you want plenty of light. You want the color temperature to be about 5,000 Kelvin, or like daylight balanced. And then if you can, you want the CRI to be higher than 90. The CRI is the accuracy of the color created by the light. 800 plus lumens, color temperature 5,000, or daylight, same diff, CRI of 90 plus. If you're looking for light bulbs, you can find those on Amazon, or you can find those at your local hardware store fairly easily. Those would fit into just, a regular like table lamp, which is what I've got. I've got a couple of the gooseneck office desk lamps here that I've just got clamped to my table so that I can move them around independently. But if you're looking for hobby-specific lamps designed for hobby, I'm going to recommend the Game Envy Lucent. That would be my recommendation. I can't set up a Lucent here because it would mess with my camera settings or with my camera position. I'd have to completely rebuild my entire desk. So I don't have one at my desk, but I have used them at conventions. I've used them in classes. They're wonderful. Does that answer your question, Project Midnight? I may not have been able to answer him fast enough. He may have left before I saw the question. That's too bad. The thing with some of these live streaming platforms is sometimes people are only there for 10 seconds, and if they don't get an answer, they leave, which is, just the nature of the beast sometimes, and that's okay. But it's unfortunate that sometimes people miss out on answers to their questions because I can't multitask terribly well, and that's a me problem. Maybe I can, like, on one hand, I'd almost want to put like an alert that says, "Hey, read the question off to me via text to speech," but then I open myself up to people putting in a lot of really horrible things into text to speech and then having that read off live, which would not be great. I don't want to open the door to that. That could be very dangerous. Still useful info for others. That is true, Wolfenholm. That is very true. And I hope it proves to be useful. Okay, so we're going to take our last color here for the leather. This is sunset orange. This is the kind of the color of the scratches and the most significant weathering on a leather surface. So we're gonna make this very, very small and use this in very small amounts, just to kind of show some unevenness and some weathering and some damage on some of these leather sections. Scratches, things like that. So down here in the far corner, we'll put some here. Get some right along this seam here. Here we'll use it to make a scratch there. just to make the leather look like it's been used and it's got some wear and tear to it. That's the whole idea. And in a lot of situations, less is more. So you don't want to go super crazy with this, because then it just becomes like, okay, it becomes too much. It becomes overwhelming for the eyes. So just a little bits of it here and there does a much better job of communicating the idea of scratches and damage than adding it absolutely everywhere. So here on the toes, here right on the top of the boot, maybe some of the sides where it's got scuffed up a little bit. The leather buckle, the tongue of that. It makes the leather look a lot more interesting. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good. Pretty good so far. Do have some areas where I do want some more color variation in the leather. It looks kind of boring in a couple spots here, so we'll brighten up small areas. Okay, so this cloth underneath, I'm going to do a different color there. I kind of want to do, let's see if this will work out. We'll see. We'll see if this works. It's going to be a little mix and match. Okay, so we started with some black green, and once that's dry, we'll make that a little bit brighter with some regular green. I don't think that was bright enough, but it does a decent job of starting to work up. So we still need to let that dry. Every time we add a layer, we get a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. It's just a nice, easy way to increase the, to do highlights, and to increase the brightness and the saturation of the colors you're doing, instead of just trying to do one thick coat of a bright color, working up from dark. It just adds so much more visual interest. It allows you to make the miniature look more and more three-dimensional. I think it just looks so much better than just a single flat color that has no nuance or individuality to it. But again, it also completely depends on what your purpose is. If you just want to get models on the table, 100% do what you gotta do. They don't have to look fancy. Slowly bringing it up, I'm happy to see you all showed me that it helped a lot. Good. Yeah, just slowly bringing it up. But again, if this doesn't fit the vibe you're looking for, or if it's going to take too much time, that's fine. Do what you got to do. I don't think anybody should feel like they have to do any of these things if it doesn't fit their purpose. If your purpose is just to get models on the table and want them to look halfway decent, then don't worry about this. You don't have to do this. That is A-okay. This does slow things down. Now, the model will look better, in my opinion, but it will slow you down. So you get to decide on whether or not that's worth it or not. And if it's not, no worries. So I don't want to distract from the striped pants too much, so we're just going to leave that cloth as green for now. We're just going to leave that as green. Next thing to do. Side question. Still want to embark a possible adventure to the Ren Fair? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the first weekend is the magical weekend, I guess. That's the weekend where it's a little bit more acceptable to do wizards and fairies and things like that. So it'd be the first weekend in June, I believe. Let's see. June. Clackamas County Fair and Event Center can be Saturday, June 6th. Fantasy Weekend is the first weekend. Then it's Viking Weekend, then Feast of Fools Weekend, then Pirates Weekend. Oh. Uh-oh. Shoot. Saturday's completely sold out, and Sunday is a wait list. So the fantasy weekend's basically sold out. The next option is, yeah. I shouldn't have waited so long. Darn. That's entirely my fault. What's the whiskey tasting? Refined CD experience for da 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 da. Does this come with... Oh, you have to get both. No, it's entirely your fault. I've known that I needed to check on this. I was just hoping it wouldn't be sold out, but the more fool me, I guess. I could do the Viking weekend, but I don't have a Viking outfit. That's the problem. Well, the problem, the thing, Romans, is the Ren Fair, the fantasy weekend, is sold out. What is... Let's see. I don't see any dress code requirements for this. I think I don't know if they're going to enforce a dress code for these or not. Hey Pierce, how are you doing? You're just gonna go in your civvies? Ah, that's fine. That's fine. But I put together a wizard's outfit. I could just like not wear my pointy hat, I guess. Then it could be definitely be like a more of a Viking type thing. That makes me sad. Ren Fair. Pierce, here is what we're working on right now. We're working on a miniature from Doom 1490 Doom. This is the Brute miniature. And we've got base coats down. We did the leather. We've done the pants and made them look all stripy and nice and fancy, and then got the fur a little bit, and then the leather. So the next thing is the armor, and I don't want to make it shiny armor, so we're gonna make it kind of like dinged up. I'm gonna make it dinged up, but yeah, Bodacious Pie, just let me know what weekend you do, and I may just go in my civvies, or I may just change up my might cost him a little bit because it doesn't look like I'll be able to do the fantasy weekend. I could put a $5 deposit on and get on a wait list, but we'll see. Nice. Dinged up is a good choice. Yeah, he's all dinged up already, so you know, I mean, the rest of his model is, so might as well make him fit everything else. But yeah, Bodacious, let me know. Okay, so let's mix up a darker gray blue. Now we're still... Hey man, I'm just started assembling my first custodes, and I'm wondering, do I assemble it completely or not attach the weapons? It is 100% up to you. Things to keep in mind is if the custodes weapons are getting in the way, making it are going to make it difficult for you to paint, then it might not be a bad idea to not attach the weapons. If you can attach the weapons and still get to everything, then maybe it might not actually matter that much. It's really up to you. Now, if you're asking for the game, I don't know. I don't play the game. If you're asking like what weapons to use or should you make them magnetize, things like that to switch things out, I honestly don't know. I don't play the game. But for ease of painting, not attaching the weapons is going to be completely up to you. Now, you might notice that I've got this weapon attached here, and it is blocking a couple of things, but this is so narrow that it's not hard to get around. A Custodes Guardian Spear, or if they've got like a shield or something, that might be harder to get around, so maybe it'd be a good idea not to attach them, but it's really going to be up to how difficult it is going to be for you to paint around them. That's going to make the biggest determination. Does that make sense at all? And a lot of that is going to be really down to just trying things out and experimenting. I might recommend for starting out that you don't attach them, and then you learn to paint them detached and then glue them on later. Because it'd be easier for you to glue them on later, as opposed to figuring out that like, oh, I should have kept this separate. It'd be easier to keep it separate to start with and then figure out whether or not you like that, then it would be for you to start with it attached and then figure out, oh, I should not have done this. It'd be easier for you to recover and do something different if they're not attached. But it is ultimately going to be up to you and what your comfort level is. Now here for the, you see I'm covering most of the surfaces of the armor here with some stipples and scratches here of this lighter blue, and we're just going to work that up more and more. No, I'm just asking, is I want to prime it. I'm not sure if the weapons will be in the way. I got you. I wouldn't worry about the priming, because the priming doesn't have to cover every single bit of the model. It just needs to cover enough of the model for most of the paint to stick. Areas that are like really deep inside the model, they don't necessarily need primer because nothing's going to rub up against them. The primer is mostly there for the paint to have some durability and to not get, you know, just rubbed off the model very, very easily. But so if you miss some of the deeper points with primer and they don't get primed, that's fine. That's not going to ruin the model by any means. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? I realize I may have misunderstood you first time around there, so I apologize for that, but... Okay. Good. I'm glad. Sorry if it was a little scatterbrained first time around. Oh, I had a break. My bad. Didn't realize that was right then. Thought I still had some time before the break auto started. Try to take a break every hour, so I have it scheduled. And I missed the start of it this time, so we're gonna take a break here in just a second, just so that I can get some water, walk around a little bit. I'll make it fast. Not good to sit in one spot for hours and hours and hours and hours. And since I already work a day job where I am sitting in the same chair for my day job, I don't want to continue sitting in the same spot for ever and ever and ever. So I make sure that I have a break scheduled. Let's see. Do you ever struggle in seeing the smaller details? Because usually I go to squint with when I was scraping off plastic residue. Yeah, oftentimes I do. There's a couple different ways that you can deal with that. You can dry brush the model with like white or a light gray after you've primed it black, and that will highlight all of those small details with the dry brush. If you have an airbrush, you could use an airbrush to do that by Zenithal, but not everybody has an airbrush, and not everybody needs an airbrush, so that's that's not applicable to everybody. So like for example, I do have an airbrush, and so I primed him black, and then I sprayed white from up top. Now you could do this same thing with like a dry brush. You can get very similar to this, and that'll help pick out all the little details so you can see them, and then it'll be easier to paint them. But that's what I do. But yes, if a model is just primed black, I can't see the details. I'm not able to see them anymore, so it just doesn't work well for me. Okay, we're back from our ad break, or our little break time. Okay, now even though this armor is supposed to be like rough and rough cast and everything, there's still gonna be little spots of brightness, like raw metal, that's gonna reflect light very strongly. So I'm still using that same really bright off-white here, and I'm going to kind of establish a highlight direction here. And like I said before, Procryl paints tend to fade when they're dry, especially their lighter colors. They tend to fade out really well, or pretty strongly. So we're gonna come in here and we're going to reinforce that highlight in a couple spots. Uh, so the wedding is down in San Francisco. I'm driving back, so we'll be heading back on Saturday the 13th. Okay. So that'll be the third Saturday. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it. Because I am, if we're looking at Saturday, I'm gonna be at Origins on the 20th. And then I'll be teaching a class on painting Cyber Savage minis at Board Bard, probably on the 27th, which is the last weekend. So the only options I've got for going to the Ren Fair on a Saturday are the first or second Saturdays, which is the 6th or the 13th. If we're looking at Sunday, Sunday, the only option I would have is either the day you get back on the 14th, which would be hell, or the 28th. So I need to double check on those things. So I can ping you later when I've got a confirmation from Board Bard on the day of the Yeah, I have every intention of making it to one of the weekends. I'm just sad that the fantasy weekends all sold out, and that's, again, entirely my fault. So we're just going for a more rough cast non-metallic metal here for armor that's been pretty banged up and dinged up. Bit more, I want a little bit lighter in a couple spots. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna do because I like alternating between cold and light colors. I like the way that looks, and it's just something I tend to fall into very easily. Because we're using a gray blue for the steel, we'll use a red for the wrap around his helmet that's making him all blind. And we will work that up into brighter and brighter. Absolutely. No, we definitely need to chill. I definitely still want to go to Bridge City Hobbies and hang out there with you guys, or you and the guys there. And then of course we can figure out other times to hang out too. I'm trying to go fairly light with this red so that I'm not getting down into the folds. I want those folds to still be that dark mahogany. That gives all of these shapes of volume and keeps them from appearing just really, really flat. Go. We need a West Coast model hangout. I agree. There's multiple people who have thought about doing stuff like that and tried to get it going, and they've all kind of fallen through, or stuff has happened. CritCon in October is shaping up to be, or at least has, in my opinion, indications of continuing to grow into a larger and larger convention, and they're already doing hobby classes and things like that. So the next step, I think the next logical step for them is to, have things like structured painting areas, like almost like a Fort Wapple, stuff like that at CritCon. But then, of course, my friend Gregory, his house is getting, they're finishing up the remodel soon, and the structured painting area that he's got in his house, that should be open up for painting hangouts in the Portland area soon. But yeah, I'd like to have something more common, with like, hey, if you're from out of town, come on in, schedule a time to come hang out, or stuff like that. I'd like to have like an actual convention too, which is what I'm hoping CritCon continues to grow into, because they've got some pretty good signs that they're going to continue to grow into that, into something more. Their goal is to be like Adepticon, so we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. So I'm teaching classes there and trying to encourage people to come check it out. It's in October, so if you're interested in seeing that, there's going to be a lot of indie games there too, and smaller scale games, as well as big GW games and stuff like that. So they're doing a good job of embracing the indie and kind of niche hobby community as well. Last year there was a War Master tournament there, so if War Master was like fantasy, epic scale fantasy back in the day. So they are focusing on that more. There was there was an actual like Inquisitor 54mm Inquisitor game. There'll be one there this year as well. I know the guy that runs that, and he's got full plans to be there. There was a narrative Necromunda set of skirmish games that people could come in and play with some really nice tables. So we've got a good start. This is going to be year 3, I think. I think we're going to be in a pretty cool spot. Obviously, it'll take years and years for it to grow into something like anything like the size of Adepticon, but that's where they're pushing for. That's what their ultimate goal is. So we'll see how that goes. And I think that's a good goal to have. Getting to be something big here on the far west coast. That's got a good mix of competitive play and a good mix of, hobby, narrative focused stuff. Okay. How's he looking? I think he's looking pretty cool. What do y'all think? I think he's looking pretty nice. There is some dark lining we can do to help separate some of these details out from each other. I think this is an important step for a lot of models. The panel lining and their dark lining really helps a lot of these details to stand out from one another, especially when they're layered in the same kind of color. So dark lining around the tongue of the boot and then around this strap here helps them visually stand out when they're being looked at, and I think that's important. Anything you can do to make the model appear more clear to the viewer and easier to understand is important. I'm having an issue here. This sunspot looks like bird poop. It doesn't look like a reflection. So I'm going to knock it back a little bit with some more brown and maybe have a little bit more of a solid color there. I think that's a little bit better. And my fingers keep rubbing paint off the toe of his boot here. Oh, I really should have this guy on one of my bottle caps, so I'm not touching him as much. Okay, what's left to do on him? The haft of the weapon, obviously, the head of the weapon, and then the little reliquary non-metallic bits on his Hey, Check-It, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for the rose. The non-metallic metal on the little round bits on the I can't remember what those are called on a Roman legionnaire's kilt, but those things. And then the snorkel, I want to make that like bronze or brass. And then of course we've got the ugly face here that I had a friend from 3D RoleplayCon sculpt onto his shoulder pad. So I want to make that bronze and have that stand out. But I think we're in a pretty good spot right now for how far we've gotten tonight. I don't kind of running out of steam mentally. Also need to do the belt buckle on his boots and then on his belt. We'll do those in steel so they stand out against the warmth of the belt. But yeah, I think we've made a really good bit of progress tonight. I think the skin looks okay. I do think that I want to make sure I add some flush to his skin. So things like the oh, that's way too bright. That's way too thick. Things like his a little bit of red flush on his knuckles and his finger joints there. Some on his elbow here. Elbow here. Here in his chest. And then we'll have some right there as well, just to get a little bit of subsurface scattering. Get some areas of warmth here. Yeah. And then, of course, we need to do the non-metallic metal for his cuffs, for his manacles. So we still got some stuff to do. It shouldn't take too long to do most of this. So I think we'll definitely have him done next stream on Friday. But yeah, I think we're going to call it there for tonight. I appreciate y'all being here. I think we made really good progress tonight. I feel pretty darn good about this. Hey, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and end the TikTok stream. So TikTok, thank you so much for being here tonight. I very much appreciate it. I'll get a video out about this today or tomorrow, just showing the progress that we've made tonight. And then, yeah, we will keep an eye out on TikTok for, my daily videos. I'm trying to make videos daily there. So talking about, different things. I'm working on bronze non-metallic metal right now. So for those of you on Twitch that may not have seen it, this is the current bronze recipe. I think I do need to push it a little bit brighter with the highlight, but this is where we are with a new recipe for bronze. Here is another example, and I've been documenting a little bit of each day's progress on TikTok there. So this was the first one. This was the first attempt at it, and then I liked that, so this is where we went for the next one. Love it, your work. Do you have any other accounts or other socials like YouTube or something? Yeah, you can find me under Useless Wizard just about on any of the platforms. I don't use Twitter or X very much right now. Probably won't. I don't really use Threads or Blue Sky, but on Twitch you can find me under Useless Wizard. On Instagram you can find me under Useless Wizard. Same thing on YouTube. I need to start doing stuff with YouTube, but yeah, you'll find me Useless Wizard just about everywhere, anywhere where I can be found. But yeah, this is we're still working on this, and this is something I'm covering on Twitch or TikTok, and then I'll be doing some more stuff there. Another project that I'm working on are these two goblins from Goblin Hut. Goobertown and eBay Miniature Rescues company. I got a sprue of goblins from them, and I put them together, and I'm going to be putting them on this little riverbank. So I'm going to be working on that. So keep an eye out for that too. But yeah, absolutely, check it. No worries. And thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and end our stream on TikTok. So have a wonderful rest of your night, TikTok. Enjoy yourself. And keep in mind that painting is good for the soul. We'll see you later. And we're going to end YouTube.